The GOVOL's 247 staff already has gone on the record with its predictions for Tennessee's home game against South Carolina, but picking the final score doesn't exactly tell the entire story. With that in mind, here are two bold predictions each from Patrick Brown, Ryan Callahan, Grant Ramey, Wes Rucker and Danny Parker explaining what they think will happen Saturday afternoon at Neyland Stadium. Patrick Brown's bold predictions. John Kelly will rush for more than 125 yards. South Carolina's rushing defense is middle of the pack in the SEC statistically, and the Gamecocks aren't nearly as stout against the run as Georgia, but only one player has cracked the 100-yard mark against Will Muschamp's defense this season. Kentucky's Benny Snell barely did and needed a whopping 32 carries to get to 102 yards. I still think Kelly is good enough to hit triple digits on Saturday, though, after being held to just 44 yards against Georgia and managing just 3.5 yards per carry the past two games after his explosion against Florida. The Vols need a big day from their best player to win. Tennessee won't lose the turnover battle. A concerning stat for the Vols going into this game is turnovers. South Carolina has 13 takeaways and a +7 turnover margin, while Tennessee is -4 thanks to 10 turnovers this season. Well-coached teams don't have turnover margins that poor. Jake Bentley hasn't thrown an interception in the past two games and has been picked off just 4 times this season, and it's risky expecting Tennessee won't have many turnovers with a first-time starter at quarterback. But I think Tennessee one way or the other winds up even in turnovers. What's next for the Vols? Make sure you're in the loop. Take 5 seconds to sign up for our free Vols newsletter now. Ryan Callahan's bold predictions. Jarrett Guarantano will throw for fewer than 150 yards. Tennessee is hoping a change at quarterback will provide a spark for its struggling offense, and perhaps it will. Guarantano's running ability, if nothing else, could open up things for the Vols running game, which didn't find much success September 30 in their 41-0 loss to Georgia. But Tennessee's struggles in the passing game have to do with more than just the quarterback. Coming off former starter Quinton Dormity's worst game of the season, the Vols again will have only limited success through the air against South Carolina, which has allowed 248.8 passing yards per game in its first 6 games. Marquez Callaway will finish with at least 50 receiving yards and a touchdown. Callaway's emergence as Tennessee's most dynamic option in the passing game during the Vols' first 3 games this season has been followed by 2 games in which he hasn't caught a pass. Opposing defenses have given him plenty of attention recently, and he has struggled to create separation, like most of Tennessee's receivers. After being shaken up during the Vols' loss to Georgia 2 weeks ago, Callaway will bounce back with his second biggest game of the season and his first touchdown reception in more than a month. Grant Ramey's bold predictions. Tennessee will rush for 80 more yards than it passes for. Maybe it's a compliment to John Kelly, the SEC's number 2 running back, and freshman running back Ty Chandler. Or maybe it's wet blanket over Jarrett Guarantano's first career start, with not much wide receiver or tight end help shown over the first 5 games of the season. But I'll take the Vols rushing for 80 more yards than they pass. Maybe Guarantano runs more than Quinton Dormity did, and that opens up more options in the run game. Colton Jumper will lead the Vols in tackles and record 2 more sacks. It's not been a fun first 5 games of the season for this Tennessee football team, but Jumper's story this season is turning into a good one. He's tied for 4th in the SEC with 4.5 sacks, resulting in 27 yards for loss. If he gets 2 more against South Carolina, he'll inch closer to the league lead. Wes Rucker's bold predictions. John Kelly and Ty Chandler will have more than 40 receiving yards each. It's a given at this point that Tennessee junior running back John Kelly will be a big part of the passing game, but I think freshman running back Ty Chandler also will be a big part of the receiving game against the Gamecocks. I expect Tennessee to play it safe for much of the day with redshirt freshman quarterback Jarrett Guarantano's first college start, and I think we'll see a lot of screens and other passes to the backs. I think that would be a good way to get Guarantano settled into the game. Both teams will have 4+ sacks. I think both defenses will dial up pressure in this game for obvious reasons, and I expect there to be plenty of sacks. I think South Carolina, which scored 3 defensive touchdowns in last week's win over Arkansas, will try to harass Guarantano all day, and I think Tennessee will come after Jake Bentley in South Carolina's pass-first offense as well. Danny Parker's bold predictions. South Carolina will have more return yards on defense and special teams combined than Tennessee's offense will have from scrimmage. Sounds far-fetched, I realize, but Tennessee just doesn't seem to have any sort of identity offensively, and Will Muschamp is smart enough to know that the Vols will work to feed John Kelly early and often. Load the box. Implement press man coverage out wide. Force the redshirt freshman making his first start to beat you. Few teams in the land have had more success in turnover generation in 2017 than the Gamecocks, and I expect the trend to continue Saturday. Bryan Edwards will have more receiving yards than all of Tennessee's receivers combined. With Deebo Samuel out, South Carolina will continue to feed wide receiver Bryan Edwards, 6'3", 215, and tight end Hayden Hurst, 6'5", 250. As much as the Tennessee defense figures to be on the field, coordinator Kurt Roper will want to take some shots to see if the Gamecocks can notch some easy points. That means Jake Bentley flinging 50-50 balls up to Edwards, who is among the sec's best at coming down with those. On the other side, the Vols aren't expected to throw even a double-digit number of passes downfield, and wideouts will have a minimal amount of targets.